On the Young Turks a couple of days ago, I talked about Trump's carrier deal, and I was not giving him as much credit as some other people, even progressives, were. And I understand some of their arguments, but I didn't feel that he deserved almost any credit. Now, you can watch that video on the Young Turks to find out all of my reasons why. Today, I am coming to add just a little bit, both from my own point of view, but also, gladly, I've found out that Bernie Sanders largely agrees with me. And he, perhaps in a far more eloquent way, has described why it is that this carrier deal is not purely good news, not even the majority good news. This is an incredibly bad thing for the American worker and for American government going forward. He wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post. Really interesting that he would write an op-ed in the Washington Post, considering how they treated him during the primary. But he's an understanding guy, perhaps more understanding than me. And he had this to say. Just a few short months ago, Trump was pledging to force United Technologies, the company that owns Carrier, to pay a damn tax. He was insisting on very steep tariffs for companies like Carrier that left the United States. Instead of a damn tax, the company will be rewarded with a damn tax cut. Wow, how's that for standing up to corporate greed? How's that for punishing corporations that shut down in the U.S. and move abroad? United Technologies took Trump hostage and won. And that should send a shockwave of fear through all workers across the country. Even corporations that weren't thinking of offshoring jobs will most probably be reevaluating this stance this morning. And who would pay for the high cost for tax cuts that go to the richest businessman in America? The working class of America. Now, he is totally right. I'm going to return to what he said in just a second, but I do have to say that I was also right about how the media would spin the Carrier deal. And I watched a little bit of CNN this morning, and I watched as they showed not just the empty podium leading up to his speech at the Carrier plant, but his entire speech about what happened there. And during the speech, they had lower thirds, where it said, I was super tough, Trump, I was super tough with him. Trump, we're going to protect all jobs. No context, no fact-checking. If he says a thing, it's probably true. Don't worry about the actual details. But Bernie Sanders understands the actual details. I would like to think that to some extent at least, I understand it as well. This deal sucks, okay? It sucks right now with what we know about it, and it definitely sucks when we think about what will likely end up happening, both with this deal and with other deals. Now, I want to add a little bit of context because CNN seems so uninterested in it. They'd rather just show you what Trump says about the deal, as if he is any sort of reliable source of information on it. So he made this deal, and a lot of Trump supporters are going to say he saved 800 or 900 jobs. Oh my God. For once, they're putting the workers first. For once, the government is watching out for us. Now, that's not the case, and I told you on the Young Turks a couple of days ago that it is scary that this man has spent almost a year talking about this one company and one move of workers that it's going to send to Mexico, when this is a problem that is across the country. One case study can be interesting to demonstrate a point. You can talk about one company, you can talk about one factory closing down, and then advocate for policies that will affect many different companies and many different factories. But he's literally just focused on the one. So let's talk about scale. So he spent, God knows, a couple weeks, perhaps a couple of months working on this deal with Carrier to stop them from moving some of the jobs abroad. Now, they're still going to move more than half of the jobs they were going to, but he saved something like 800 or perhaps 900 jobs. Well, let's put that in context in America. Because of population growth in America, we need to generate 200,000 new jobs every single month simply to keep pace with the growing population. He saved 800 jobs. That's 8 Carrier-sized deals every single day simply to keep pace with population growth. Now, of course, this is not the only thing that the government can do to stimulate jobs, but it does put it in sharp perspective how minuscule this effort is, and the fact that this tiny-brained and tiny-bodied little man focused so much of his time on this one case, that should make you very scared about the future of our economy and of our government's involvement with the economy. Not to mention the fact that, as Bernie Sanders points out, the only reason even those jobs were saved is because we paid the company off heavily. Which is a very easy thing to do for Donald Trump. It's not his money and he doesn't care about it. And so he can shower the company with money. What's the difference to him? Now look, I'm not begrudging the 800 people their jobs that were technically saved, if they were actually saved. But understand that when I make these criticisms, it's because I know how these deals work with these corporations. They give them the tax cuts, and then a little bit of time goes by, and the minuscule things that the company has given to get those tax cuts often end up being forgotten. They're left at the side of the road. And so those 800 jobs are theoretically saved right now. Check back in 6 months. Check back in a year or 18 months. See if those jobs are still there then. I fear that they will not be. And I fear that a lot of other jobs will go by the wayside if this is how he's going to attempt to manage the economy. It's good to know that Bernie Sanders is keeping track of this, that he still has the best interests of workers at mind. That's what we need to be focusing on. We need to be focusing on the right people, but we also need to be thinking big. Huge problems require huge solutions, and this is about as tiny as a solution can come.